Hey there, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Behind the Paddle, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of pickleball and the athletes and figures who make it thrilling by going into their personal stories. I'm your host, Rob Nunnery, and today we have a special guest who has racked up not just a ton of medals on tour, but a ton of views and subscribers. Joining us today is John Cincola. Originally from Illinois, John played Division I tennis for the University of Illinois, Chicago, and his ascent in the sport is marked by numerous achievements, including a career-high world ranking of number 5 in singles, a ton of medals, and his continued participation in Major League Pickleball. Off the court, John is really well known for his instructional content on YouTube. He has done, in my opinion, one of the top 2 to 3 jobs in pro pickleball in creating educational content for amateur players. It's just been off the charts good. He talks a little bit about how he built that channel and has become the go-to for high quality, impactful pickleball tips and drills. And in this episode, we'll explore John's transition from tennis to pickleball, how he discovered it in 2018, and we'll go into how he balances being a husband, a father, being on the road, on the pro tours, as well as building his content business. So whether you're a pickleball enthusiast, an aspiring player, or just someone who loves a good story from a good person, this episode's packed with insights you won't want to miss. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into this incredible chat with pro pickleball player John Cincola. Welcome to Behind the Paddle.
We are Selkirk. We are pickleball.
Pickleball?
Yeah, pickleball.
All ages, family, friends, dinks, drives, Ernies, ATPs, and whatever this is. 10 years in and just getting started. Here and not going anywhere. We are you, and you are who we work for. Family owned, USA made, pickleball proud. Selkirk Sport. We are pickleball.
John Cincola today. Welcome, man.
What's up? How you doing, Rob?
Good. How are you?
Things are good. I can't complain.
Yeah, we have been crossing paths for a few years now, and this is the first time we've really been able to sit down and chat and talk about how the last few years have transpired. You know, there's if you think back to like 2020, 2021 to where we are now, it's so insane to think about this is where pickleball is when, you know, you look back and it's like, man, it's changed.
Yeah. I think about it, and sometimes it feels like almost a whole nother lifetime ago. I think about when I started and just kind of like the whole progression of all the things that I went through, and how pickleball has changed, how I've kind of changed during all that. And it just feels like, almost a whole nother realm or something. It's strange to think about going back that far.
It is, because like I was going to say we're at the same kind of stage, but I'm in my late 30s, you're early 40s, you have a family, you have children. And this is like a completely different life than I know I thought I was going to live, playing a pro sport at this stage of my life. I thought literally sports were behind me when I was 22. I taught some college tennis after. I know you taught a fair amount of tennis after you finished with school. And then here we are. It's we're John, we're professional athletes. As silly as that sounds, it's true. So yeah, things have from back then when we were schlepping around to the early PPA APP events, and what was it? 2020 really, and then COVID hit, and to see like where it's at now in terms of like sustainable tours and real contracts and real, prize money and contracts and sponsorships. It's crazy how far it's come. And yeah, we're both doing it, and I don't know. I just feel lucky to be in pickleball at this time.
No, I agree. I mean, I've always been a highly competitive person. After, I taught tennis pretty much as my full-time gig after college for probably 15 years. Um, but I was always, even teaching, finding like competitive outlets of like still playing local tennis tournaments, or I had a lot of good juniors that I just played practice sets with. And so I was always finding a way to be competitive, but I never imagined that I would be back on like kind of the stage that I'm on, playing a pro sport again, um, that's on TV, that has money involved, the teams, like all, so it's totally been a blessing for me, because just being competitive, I never thought have myself back in a situation like that at 42,
Yeah.
43 years old. So it's been
Yeah.
great.
And even just saying that you taught for 15 years, like I think I think about teaching for like 15 days, like when I taught tennis, and I'm like, by day 6, I'm like, this is such a grind, dude. How am I gonna do another like week of this? And like,
Yeah,
were you
it's,
just like into that? Like, you like being on court, you like the instructional aspect?
um, I would say to start off, like kind of right out of college, I was just kind of like, it was good money. I enjoyed doing it. Uh, I'd gotten pretty good at it. Uh, and then as it went, I had like more and more demand, because I was becoming a better coach, and I was working with higher level junior players and stuff. So I wouldn't say I like loved teaching tennis, but I was able to, at least as the years went on, like um, teach more specifically the stuff that I wanted to teach. You know, working with better
Yep.
junior players. It started off where I was kind of doing a little bit of everything. I was working with the little peewees and working with like travel teams, and a little bit of everything. And I didn't necessarily love all of it,
Yep.
but as I progressed and got better, I got to kind of pick and choose the stuff that I wanted to do, because there was kind of enough demand for my time. So I
Yep.
would say that's what sustained me for that long. If I had to just kind of teach, I would say, the unfulfilling lessons for 15 years, I don't think I would have made it.
Yeah, there's a
So,
lot of
and now
there could be
pickleball's different. I love teaching pickleball for some reason,
yep.
way more than tennis. I feel like people learn faster. I feel like they're more engaged. I feel like it's just a more personal thing that we can really get a lot accomplished, and somebody can leave in an hour lesson feeling like they're better than when they showed up. And in tennis, sometimes you can go 6 months and feel like you haven't made massive improvements, which is frustrating for both the coach and the player.
Yeah, 100%. And even with tennis, like some of those lessons can be daycare if you're teaching like the kids, and the kids don't want to be there, but the parents need to go to happy hour, whatever.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
but I will say, like, being able to play college tennis like you did and like I did, and like and kind of lending itself to what you said about it being good money right out of school, and you kind of like fell into it. It is like, that's the one thing about tennis as well as pickleball now. It's like, even with tennis, I always knew, no matter what I did, whether I tried to do a 9 to 5 job, I always had tennis to fall back on. Like, if I ever was in a pinch and I needed to go make money, like today, whatever, I could go do it and teach tennis. And I think
Hmm.
get a little spoiled in terms of the mindset of, not everybody has that. For some people, the best option's, $10 an hour somewhere. So
Hmm.
it's easy to feel a little spoiled sometimes, or entitled or ungrateful. And I think it's a good perspective of, like, we had that for tennis, and now we have that for pickleball, in terms of, where we've gotten to in terms of level of play. It's like, we'll always be able to make a living off of pickleball. It might have to be teaching at some point, but we'll always be able to make a living off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And not only teaching, I've kind of discovered in the last year or two that there's just endless avenues, even within pickleball, if you have enough of a kind of a reputation or brand, that like so many ways to monetize yourself and your time. um, through pickleball. I was kind of worried about that initially, jumping in full time to say, okay, at my age, like, am I going to do this full time? And then, eventually there's going to be an end to my pro career. And then what? And that was always kind of a concern of mine early on. But now I feel like it's not anymore, because I feel like there's just so many other avenues and ways to do things in the pickleball space that, I'm still enjoying playing, but I'm really looking forward to like what's to come after my playing days are done as well. So
Yep. And I think I want to obviously get more into the stuff you're doing off court, kind of on court. You're doing a lot of instructional videos. You've done an incredible job at building a YouTube channel. And I would say you probably, like, instructional wise, educational wise in pickleball, you've probably got the best content out there, and you've done just an extraordinary job with it. And I want to touch on that, but I do want to go to the point of, you said there was some concern about, the making a living aspect. And I mentioned that you have a family, you have kids, you've got, real human adult responsibilities beyond
right.
what a lot of the people out here have, which is just, provide for yourself, go play, that's all they're thinking about next tournament.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more complex for you. Were there moments, I suppose, earlier on in pickleball, when money wasn't really there, it was like everybody was kind of scraping by to like just play the next tournament. Were there any ever like really times where you were like, man, this might be it, I might not keep playing, or were there any times where your wife is like, dude, you can't keep doing this, we just need you to teach and you need to be home? Like, what were some of those moments?
I don't know that there was any serious ones like that. The way my wife was a teacher, a full-time grade school teacher. So she was kind of like, had the steady income, carried our insurance, a lot of stuff. As a tennis teacher, like, my income would fluctuate. I'd make more in the summer, like it's still pretty seasonal and stuff. But I would say as pickleball was coming into my life, I think I did a pretty good job of slowly weaning off of my tennis income and stuff that was going on, and slowly introducing pickleball stuff. So there was never a point where it was like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm going to take a risk on this and go like play 20 tournaments this year, and I don't know how it's going to go. It was a very slow, like, gradual process of like, I'm going to test out a few tournaments, and then as I started making some money at tournaments or started getting sponsorships, then I'd add more. As I started getting lessons, then I'd cut back on tennis. And so it was a very gradual process, to where I don't think there was ever a point to where it was like we were overexposed and like, if this doesn't work out, we're in trouble kind of thing, So, and now, I'm pretty grateful that she was able to kind of like have that like that constant income, because that's what allowed me some of this flexibility. And now, kind of based on where I am, we just moved recently based on kind of where I am and what I'm doing. My wife was recently able to kind of quit her job and is doing some more stuff that she's able to be flexible with, and kind of help me out, give me more time to travel and do my YouTube stuff and all that. So it's kind of come for full circle, but it's been pretty crazy.
Yeah, super cool too. Because I think one of the also the challenges, you mentioned the move, was location. So being where you were before, Chicago area, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So going from the Chicago area, you moved down to Austin, which obviously Chicago, not a ton of practice. And if there is, you're having to travel a little bit for it, even more time away from family, kids. And And I think you did have an indoor court where you also created a lot of content out of that I saw. So you'd have guys that could come there, but at the same time, it's surely not the level or probably the frequency that you would want. And now being in Austin, you have basically all the practice you need with the players that are there. So how big of a change has that been for? I guess not just pickleball and your level and practice wise, but now you have a lot of good buddies close to you.
I'd say early on when we started, I played a lot with Zane, and Zane was about maybe an hour and a half for me. Dave Weinbach was about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then Althoff would fly up a lot of times. So that was kind of our early on group. But like you said, we could get it together very rarely, maybe like once a month or once every couple months. So that then quickly turned into Zane and I kind of saying, okay, this frequency isn't going to work. We got to start just drilling, you and I. And so that turned into Zane and I probably drilling a couple times a week. A lot of times he'd drive down to my court, or I'd drive in the summer to him. But yeah, it was difficult even. And that's, I think, why both of us kind of trended towards singles at that time, because that's just kind of what we were playing a lot of, because we really only had each other. So we were just playing a lot of singles, drilling, that kind of stuff. We weren't really getting a ton of like high level doubles reps. So yeah, then Zane moved away. Still had your good buddy Neil Medarata around, so I played with him some.
Yeah. Neil.
But yeah, there's a few pro players around that I could still get some games, but again, it was very few and far between. So not what I. Sorry, Siri interruption. She thought I was saying her name.
All good.
Yeah, so then moving to Austin, it's been basically the polar opposite. As you know, there's probably, just on the men's side alone, there's probably 12 to 15 like very, very good like pro level players here. So we can get a game any day of the week with all legit high level pro players. And not only is it great practice, but they're all people that I enjoy being around and genuinely have fun with. And so it's just, It's been a blast. It makes me want to practice more. It makes me want to be on the court and drilling and playing, because it's just fun. So, and I definitely feel like it's made an impact in my game to be able to see just that level every day. Not only to just sharpen my skills, but also to like mentally say like, oh, like I can hang with any of these guys, like a lot of times when you don't play, say someone like Deckel, you've never played him before, and you step on the court and he's ripping a ball at you, it's a little intimidating at first. So it takes a minute to realize, oh, I can hang at this level without a problem. And I think that changes your mindset going into any match. You don't feel like, walk out there feeling like you can't hang. So.
Yeah, it's such a good point. I think going to seeing that in a match at a tournament versus, and that's the only time you see him serve and rip, you're like, oh, and then you're like almost shell shocked in the match. And then you don't have time to kind of get your feet under you after that. So seeing that in practice, it's such a big deal. And what's a typical day like there for you at this point? You've got, like you said, a ton of good guys to play with. Really, quite a lot of high level females there too. How often are you playing and drilling?
So I'd say typical is, I get up, I kind of help get the girls off to school in the morning and stuff, and then most likely we're playing we'll have games set up around 8 or 9 a.m. Most days like 8 a.m. Zane does a lot of the coordinating of stuff. That's kind of his personality, so he's always texting and getting people together. But yeah, so we'll have a game set up, usually 4 or 5 of us. And I would say if it's a non-tournament week, if I'm not traveling, I would say I'm trying to play maybe end up playing probably 3 to 4 days a week, and then drilling maybe like 2 days a week.
Gotcha.
I'm kind of finding out when I got here, like I said, the play is so much fun because it's just like we have a blast, we're talking crap, it's just like it's a good time. So I think my mistake when I got here is I went the opposite direction. I went from almost exclusively drilling to almost exclusively playing. And I found that like my court instincts were good because I was playing a lot, but my just like sharpness on some of my shots wasn't there because I wasn't drilling as much. So I'm trying to get back to more of a 50-50 like drilling to playing ratio. Like I said, which is difficult because I just really enjoy playing, but I think that's where I need to be kind of at my best. So
yeah, I think, and it's like, man, like you've been, I don't want to say isolated, but you've been away from like good practice for so long that now you're like, you have it every day. You're like, this is unreal. I get to play and I get to have like high level play every single day. And nobody has to drive 2 hours to make it happen. So, and it's like, yeah, it's interesting. It's like with amateur players, they always ask that ratio, right? Of like drill to play, like what should it be? And a lot of guys are like 80% drilling, 20% playing, but it's all so dependent too, because I feel like, yes, you need both, right? You need to, like you said, court awareness, court instincts better if you're playing more games, like you're seeing the ball, you're anticipating a little bit better. But like you said, maybe you're leaving a ball a little high because you don't have as many reps on the midcourt versus drilling the midcourt. So you need both. But I do think like whenever I'm at a place where I know there's like, it's games where I'm going to be the worst player on the court or the second to worst player, like I'm always trying to play in those scenarios because it's so valuable to not be the best player on the court. So if you're in games where you're not the best player on the court, I always try to just play. But yes, of course you need both. And what I miss about Austin,
it's tough to pass up games like that when you have the chance. So if you have that, then you got to take it while it's there because you can always drill.
100%.
There was someone that it's easier to find one decent player to drill with.
And even if the player is not as good as you when you're drilling, you're still going to get a lot out of it, and you're still going to get your reps.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious because you mentioned you're pretty excited about kind of life beyond on court playing, and all the other, like you said, avenues and opportunities there are kind of on the business side and the branding side and instructional. What do you see in terms of like the next 3 to 5 years on the playing side for you? Or whatever that may look like. What is kind of like what is your time frame on the playing side versus kind of going full time into off court opportunities?
Well, I mean, I did sign, one of the the 3-year deals that a lot of the players were getting. So technically, I'm kind of locked into a pro pickleball contract for the next 3 years. Obviously, who knows the way things change in pickleball? Who knows what's going to happen with that?
Last for 3 years in pickleball.
Correct. Yeah, 3 years seems like forever, so I'm not counting on anything. But I also know that in 3 years' time, the game is going to look very different. But I do feel like, Matt Wright has kind of proven that. Matt Wright, Eric Lang, there's a lot of guys that have proven that like even you can be a little bit older and in doubles at least still kind of hang at the highest level. Obviously athleticism and explosiveness and all that stuff is really important, but so is skill and nuance and, awareness and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff can't just be learned overnight, especially in doubles, So I still feel like even as the game gets more and more athletic, I feel like if I continue to practice at a high level and do all the things, I feel like I can still be right in there and competing. Singles is another story, and that's kind of why I've backed away from singles and more or less retired, just because it's almost strictly athleticism, and it's just getting ridiculous. Like the college kids that are coming out, and it's much easier to pick up. So somebody could pick up a pickleball paddle last month and go out and make a run in singles, and it's like so there's just and then also because of like my family, how many tournaments I'm playing, and travel time, I kind of made the decision that like to add another day to every single trip to play singles, so I've kind of removed singles from my kind of radar right now. I'm focusing on doubles. I really like playing mixed doubles. So yeah, that's right now. That's my plan, is to hopefully play out the next 3 years, reevaluate, see where everything's at. But again, like I said, who knows? 3 years is a long time. So I think I'll probably be reevaluating before that. But yeah. So that's my plan for the playing side.
Love it. And I think a lot of people there's not a lot out there. I mean, there's stuff out there in terms of like contract size and like what some players are getting paid and stuff like that, but there's not a ton in terms of like what other revenue and income opportunities there are for pro players. What would you say your split right now is? You don't feel free to share or not share any of this. What's your split right now between kind of like earnings, like tournament earnings, contracts, and instructional, whether it be on court lessons or whether it be YouTube?
So I would say contract is maybe 30% of my earnings. Prize money is probably about 20%. And then instructional, YouTube, kind of off-court stuff is probably about 50% right now.
Cool. And in terms of the YouTube stuff, because I think, like I said, I think you're doing an incredible job on that. And I think for a lot of players, like that's where most of the opportunity is off court income and building social and building a following like that. Because I think it's the biggest gap right now. There's not big social followings. There's not, but there's however many millions of people that play the sport. So like, there's just such a gap between, what pro players are doing and what is actually what the amateur side is doing in terms of participation. What do you see? Like, what's your vision for whether it's YouTube, your personal brand? Have you thought about that in terms of looking at potential with all of that?
Well, yeah, I'd first say that, I feel pretty like, this is an example of like surrounding yourself with good people. But, I'd say probably about 2 years ago, I've got a good friend of mine who I played tennis with. He runs a very successful marketing business. And he's always been kind of a consultant to me. He's just a, intelligent guy. And he had been telling me forever, like, you got to start a YouTube channel. You got to get this, and I'm just like, I'm not that guy. I just like teaching my private lessons, and like, and so eventually I kind of broke down, did one video. It did pretty well. It's kind of, people seem to like it. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's something here. But at the time, I don't think I really understood what like having that kind of reach and having that kind of following means, you know?
Yeah.
So I just kind of went into it, I would say, on the advice of someone else who I felt like knows the space better than I know it. And then as I've gone, I've learned a lot of things. And now I'm at the point with almost 40,000 followers or subscribers on my channel where I you realize how impactful that is, of like, whether you want to sell something or do brand deals with somebody, or like, there's just, once you have kind of eyeballs on you and your brand, there's an infinite amount of ways that you can monetize that.
Yep.
And so I really enjoy doing the videos, though. I think it's fun. I think it's good to get out information to people, and not only information to people, but to a wider audience. You know, if I'm teaching a small group or private lesson or something, I feel like I've got valuable information to share, but only one person is receiving it. So if I can get that out to a wider audience, I think it's good for the pickleball community. And I didn't really ever think about it this way, but like, when I go to a tournament, probably 20 people a day come up to me and say like, hey, like, I appreciate like what you do and like the effort you put into the channel and the videos and stuff. And like, a lot of times I've always looked at it from just, this is a way to kind of build my brand and stuff. But I guess I never looked at it as like, from their end, they're just getting kind of like, YouTube is free, so they're getting
free coaching, yeah,
free coaching, free content, and so everyone's very appreciative of it. And I've never thought about it from that perspective before, So, yeah. But as far as kind of where I see that going, my main goal right now is to continue to build it. Branch it out to different things. So I'm going to be starting kind of a new wing to my channel where we're doing like paddle reviews and gear reviews and that kind of stuff.
All right, so guys, James Ignatowicz here. I'm here to tell you about Selkirk's newest creation, the Vanguard Pro. It's got vibration absorption, thermoform. It's got 4 layers of 12K raw carbon, and I've tried it. It's an awesome paddle. Selkirk's always coming out with the best new stuff, and I've always tried every single new paddle that they've come out with. That's just because I'm addicted to trying new stuff, and Selkirk's always, surprising me with new great paddles. So if you're anything like me, or if you just want to use a great paddle that's got great vibration absorption, extra power, it had great spin and great control, felt like it had pretty much everything I wanted, make sure to try it. Vanguard Pro, awesome paddle, give it a shot.
And then there's a lot of different kind of business ventures that I'm kind of working on. I'm working on some paid like coaching courses where it's going to be more in-depth information and instruction and stuff that I'm going to be selling. I also am working on like some coaching, like a stay and play kind of coaching package where
sure.
I have access to a property in Austin where it's a beautiful house with a pickleball court right on the property. And people reach out to me all the time about wanting to travel to Austin and take lessons with me, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to formalize that and create this thing where people can get a group of 4 to 6 players, come with their friends. They'll have a place to stay in this nice Airbnb. The court's right on property. I'll come out. I'll teach them. So it's kind of a weekend all-in-one kind of stay and play package.
Yep.
So working on getting that going. So there's a lot of different things. I've talked to a few different pro players about doing private coaching for them kind of when my playing days are done. So that's something I'd love to get into is coaching kind of up and coming pro players and working with them. Yep. Maybe I'm coaching an MLP team. So I feel like there's lots of options, lots of things out there that I would love to get into. So
Yeah, I love it. I think, yeah, it's like what I mentioned before in terms of like having tennis, you always have something. But now with pickleball, it's obviously, like you said, to me, it's also like night and day in terms of enjoyment of actually teaching, because you're right.
mhm.
Like people are very appreciative. It doesn't take long to actually have something click for somebody and watch them like be so pumped they figured it out with your help. It's like it is rewarding, and that's um yeah, that's the cool aspect of it. With the YouTube stuff, it sounds like you had some good guidance, but I mean, you're the one that had to like record the videos, and like were you doing all of the editing, and are you still doing all of the editing, or what? Can you walk me through like those kind of like the beginning of that, because I think that's it could be pretty intimidating to a lot of people at the start.
Yeah. So yeah, early on it was all me. I I think I even started the first video just recording on my phone. Didn't really have any equipment to speak of. So I recorded it. I learned just basic editing skills in like iMovie for the first video. So that took probably like literally 12 hours to edit that first video just because I was literally learning as I was doing it, which is no. But and then I'd say pretty quickly I moved on to like learning Final Cut so I could do some more things editing wise. And I was getting decent at editing, kind of figuring it out, but I quickly realized that like the time it took is not time that's well spent for me to be doing that. I've got
Yeah.
other things that I could be doing than sitting and editing a video for 10 hours. So, in probably the last, I did it for quite a while on my own. I'd say the last like 3 to 4 months, I passed that off, hired an editor. I still do a lot of my own filming for right now, but kind of the rest of that, the management of the channel, the editing of the videos, is done. We go back and forth, obviously, where I kind of give a lot of creative influence on kind of what they want the final product to look like. But yeah, as far as the actual legwork of editing it, I'm out on that. And we're in the process right now of actually hiring more editors because now my editor is going through the same thing that I went through of like, I don't have time for all this, especially we're starting the new paddle review thing and, have a lot of stuff kind of in the pipeline. So, yeah, it's time consuming and it definitely, once you try to ramp up, turn it into a full production, like you got to have a team in place to be consistent with it. Like you just can't be a one-man show and like continue to put out good content at a consistent clip, so.
Were you making, because it sounds like you did it up until 3 or 4 months ago. So at that point, I'm assuming that revenue coming in, for the channel, it made sense to hire it out where it wasn't just out of pocket loss from the get go, and it was less of an investment, more of just a cost and expense at that point. Is that right?
Pretty close. I would say I made the decision to say, okay, almost everything that this channel is bringing in different kind of forms, I'm just going to reinvest back into it with the intention I'm trying to like really grow it this year. So I'm doing some marketing. I added a marketing guy that's marketing the channel, putting some ad spend behind the videos, and like I said, I got an editor in place. So a lot of different like people in place, and basically just taking everything that I make, putting it back in to the machine, and just trying to like grow it as quickly as possible at this point.
And is YouTube is YouTube kind of the ultimate platform that you're focused on growing, or are you looking at other platforms outside of YouTube as well?
No, YouTube's the main one. I would say everything else is ancillary to that. So, I do some Instagram stuff, but I feel like everything kind of funnels back to YouTube for the most part. I feel that's where the biggest kind of, for me, it feels like that's where having the biggest benefit of followers, or, followers, that subscribers that kind of matter. Not matter, but it kind of, like you can turn into something, or you can make something out of, so.
Yeah. It's yeah, I mean a subscriber on YouTube is definitely more valuable than a follower on Instagram, for example.
Yeah, I think so.
There's more weight behind it, and I mean truly more income behind it too.
Yeah, and really even like outside of affiliate deals and that, all that kind of stuff, branding deals, and that, like, even just the ad share revenue from YouTube is pretty decent. So just getting views on YouTube is worth
Are
something.
you able to share what for like the spot you're at now?
Yeah, so right around 20. Like I said, I'm just below 40K subscribers. I probably put out on average 4 videos a month right now, and I would say the videos average 50 to 75,000 views per video. And so right now that's equaling about maybe 2,000 to 2,500 a month in, like, just strictly ad revenue from YouTube.
So if you think about putting that into, call it your editor, call it a videographer, like, yeah, well, one quality goes way up. You're fresher because you're focusing on just on air stuff. And then you're just able to grow at such a faster clip from there, right? Because you're not bogged down with all the other stuff. And like you said, you can introduce other aspects with the paddles and a bunch of other things I'm sure you have in mind.
Yeah, exactly. But that's hard. That's, I think, like, so I'm a big, like, I'm a fan of Tesla, and like, and Elon talks about, like, making a prototype or making a car is not the hard part, but like manufacturing at volume is what's impossible. And so it's kind of the same thing, like making that first video and kind of getting the YouTube channel off the ground wasn't that hard, but getting it to a place to where it's a machine that's running and all the pieces are, mostly moving without a whole lot of input from me. I mean, obviously I'm kind of the main creative influence, but like, I don't want to be putting, like, time to be putting like 15, 20 hours a week into it.
Yeah.
Just with everything else that's going on. So I feel like that's definitely the more difficult part is building this kind of sustainable, growing thing versus just kind of like getting it started, so.
Yep. Thoughts on creating, because I think the default thing for people that build an audience like you have is to look at, like you said, those brand deals, where you're promoting, call it a supplement or an electrolyte for a company. Any thoughts or plans on building your own brand around the audience you've created? Whether it be a product brand or whether just something like that.
I have given that, I guess, very little thought. I have not. I guess I haven't felt like I have a product, like, worthy of that, or there's nothing that I'm super passionate about that I'm like, okay, this is going to be the best sports drink or the best, whatever. I would definitely be open to it if I felt like I came across something that I'm like, this is amazing, and I feel like it could help people or be a great, but I really have to believe in something pretty wholeheartedly to, like, put it out there and put my name behind it. So
I'd buy a Cincola anti-aging products all day.
There you go. And it might be onto something there. I can't give my secrets away though.
Yeah, I mean, just enough to where we get a taste of it.
Right. Okay. Fair. But yeah, like I said, I am working on a couple more in-depth like courses that are going to be for purchase.
Yep.
So that'll be kind of my first, like, I guess, item or something that'll actively be kind of selling that's my own. So
Gotcha. And
mhm.
that's exciting because you've already, I just think about like the Gary Vaynerchuk model of like one of his first books is jab, 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 right hook. And the jabs are give, 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 basically, right?
Mhm.
Provide free value, provide free education. You've been doing this for a long time. So I think and that was kind of my thought on it is you've given so much. And like to your point of people coming up to you at tournaments, thanking you for basically the free coaching for the past however many years you've been doing it. I think people want to support you, right? So I think when you put out a product now, they're going to be like, man, he's given so much that like, I'm sure this is really good because I see the quality of his content. And two, I want to
Mhm.
support him because he's given so much.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I appreciate you saying that, but I tend to not look at it that from that perspective. But I guess that
Yeah.
definitely exists. And like you said, like when I hear people say that, that's why it kind of throws me. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess there is a from the other end. It does look like that. So yeah, I think but I have noticed that as well to where, there's a thing on YouTube where people can just like click a button and give like a thanks
Mm-hmm.
and just give you like $10 or whatever. And like that
Yeah.
happens every now and then where people just like in a comment, like give a thanks and like, I don't ask for it. I don't, but
Yeah.
people still do it. So I think there is definitely a sense of that, out there. My feel is I always want to, I'm always kind of, I don't want to say fearful, but I never want somebody to feel like ripped off by me,
Yeah.
so I always want to create good value and feel like I'm for what you're paying me for whatever, you're satisfied with it. And so, even with this coaching thing, I feel like even though I'm going to be charging for it, it's going to be around the price of what you pay for one private lesson. And it's going to be, a 4 or 5 video series, super in depth, that
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be a lot of information for kind of what you're paying. So, so I'm hoping, kind of expecting that'll do well. But again, it's just
Yeah.
kind of another thing in the list of things that I'm working on. So it's going to
Yeah.
take a little time to get out. But
Yeah. No, but I agree. I think the online education stuff's it's undervalued because one, like, yeah, you do a lesson with you or me or anybody, and it's like you get us for that hour, however long it is. But with this, like, you get us as long as you want, really. Like, you go back to it over and over. You can play it over and over. You can play it every day before you go play and drill.
mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's heavy value in that.
Yeah, and the only thing it's not is personalized to your game, but I feel like I've done enough coaching right now that I have a really good idea of what people's like, at any given level, what are the most common
Yep.
flaws, common problems that I see. And I feel like even without seeing somebody, I probably could know like, okay, these are probably um, issues that you're dealing with, or maybe a reason why a certain shot isn't working or whatever, because I've seen the
Yep.
pattern of it over and over and over again, so.
And honestly, nobody's issues are ever really that unique, right? It's like
Right.
you can name the 5 things and it's gonna cover 99% of the people.
Right. Exactly.
Let's say you and I are doing this chat conversation again 1 year from today. If you look back on the past 12 months, what would have to have happened for you to be like, that year was exactly what I wanted. I couldn't have drawn it up better.
um, it's tough. I've got a lot of things, that I would consider to be like what I would correlate success to, from like just spending time with my family and being there for, things in my girls' lives that, events that they're at or things that they're doing or going on vacation with them and spending time with them, to obviously having success on the pro pickleball court, to growing my YouTube channel, just like we talked about. So I would think, success for me would look back and feel like that I balanced all those things well. Gave kind of the appropriate time to each, was efficient with my time, and 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 had good kind of balance in my life to where, I just feel like everything's kind of balanced out. So yeah, it's tough to say, but that's probably what I would consider success at this point. It's not like a specific like win X amount of gold medals or
Yep.
So
no, that's perfect. What is kind of your biggest? I don't know if fear is the right word, but what? Any big worries? Like what are your biggest concerns right now? Whether it's, I guess I'll leave it open.
I mean, just in general, pickleball or anything?
It's wide open.
I don't know. I don't know that
I'll give you an example. I talked to James Ignatowicz, and he was like, maybe I shouldn't share this, but he's like, maybe we'll edit this out. But now that I'm telling it on this one, then we can edit it on that one. And I can tell it on this one. But he was like, I had a dream like 2 nights ago. He's like, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I literally woke up crying because I thought somebody canceled pickleball. Like the sport as a whole, it was just gone. It didn't exist anymore.
That's funny. Yeah, like I kind of briefly alluded to the fact that like a couple years ago, a fear of mine was that, I was kind of putting everything into this pickleball thing with the unknown of how long I'd be able to sustain or play pro. Now I feel like as far as pickleball goes, I feel diversified enough that I don't have a fear of like, what if the YouTube channel doesn't work out, or what if pro pickleball, or what if I don't win and my contract gets canceled. I feel like I've got enough irons in the fire that like that aspect of it is not a concern. I would say if anything, it's that I'm maybe missing out on too much family time with all the travel and stuff that I'm doing. We got twin girls that are 8 years old. They're at just a really fun age and fun to be around. And, I'm gone probably, probably going to be around 20 tournaments this year, where I'm gone for 3 to 4 days at a time, so it does award us some opportunities for sometimes they can travel with and do some cool things, but they're in school. So ultimately, like, I can't come with on probably majority of the tournaments. So it is a long time to be away, and I see it in them. I see it when I leave and they're sad, and, so I understand it's like, some people have a job that they have to travel for, and it's part of the thing you do. But it is something that I think about, and I'm not in love with, I guess, so.
Yeah, that's tough. I always think about that with, the guys that have families and kids, and how difficult it must be being on the road like that. But at the same time, her dad's a pro pickleball player. Who else can say that at school?
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool when like, when I make a medal match or something, or championship Sunday and it's on, and my wife will send me pictures of them all, or videos of them sitting in front of the TV all watching and cheering and stuff. So that's a pretty cool feeling. Or the matches that they have been able to come to and I'm on the sidelines cheering. And
no, totally.
So I think it is that effect of like setting a good example for them of like, because they're starting to get into sports and stuff, and like just setting a good example of, you know, how to compete and how to get the best out of yourself and how to practice and train and like set goals and all
Yep.
that stuff, so
And it also probably brings you a lot of perspective, like, going through call it a tough loss or something happened, it's not fun. I know you're competitive, but I think having that grounding back at home and having two girls, it brings a little perspective that maybe some of the guys out there don't have. Like there's more
yeah,
to it.
I'll never forget the first time I felt that. So, when I was in tennis, as I said, like I'd play tournaments and stuff. And so the club that I worked for, me and a buddy of mine organized this kind of semi-pro tournament every January. And we raised like $10,000 of prize money, and like all of the like the top players from the Midwest. So like the whole Illinois team, the whole Northwestern team, all these like legit, guys with ATP points and stuff would show up because the prize money was really good. And I'd always play in that tournament. And, the whole club would come out, everyone would watch, and I'd always be nervous. And then I remember like the first year after the girls were born and my wife came out, brought the girls, and I remember playing like right on that front court and everyone was watching. And I remember just walking by them and feeling like this sense of ease that like it was just tennis, and I didn't really care what happened all that much because I still had like this thing that was bigger, and so it was probably like the most relaxed match I've ever played because I just felt like this kind of sense of ease about like, oh, this is just a small kind of fairly unimportant thing compared to like the grand scale of things, so that was a cool thing to realize at the time.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this thing that I always was so stressed about actually incredibly insignificant on the
Exactly.
in the grand scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, we have last few bit. Let's see. We're gonna do a little rapid fire.
Cool.
If I can find it. Okay. Here we go. Okay, rapid fire. Then we'll stop it. We'll say goodbye, and then just hang on until I give you the okay after the upload is good. Cool. All right, so this is just going to be quick. Rapid fire, John Cincola. Last TV show that you binged and liked?
There's a show on Netflix called American Nightmare. It was like a 3-part documentary about this crazy like kidnapping.
Big true crime guy?
Sometimes. I mean, they're not all good, but yeah, sometimes. But this one, for some reason, we were just sucked in and we watched all 3 in like one night and was like, whoa, that was crazy.
Favorite movie?
Shoot. Can't think of the name of it.
Top 5 favorite movie.
My favorite movie is one. It's about he's a drummer. You ever seen that movie?
Whiplash.
Whiplash, yes.
It's intense.
Whiplash
like
is my favorite.
Fingers
movie.
are bleeding. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. I love that movie.
One thing that you're deeply grateful for right now.
My family, my wife, my kids, just all of our surrounding family, my parents, everyone's so supportive, and yeah, definitely the influence of all of them.
What's a guilty pleasure for you?
Probably like desserts.
Favorite dessert?
Probably like cookies and ice cream, but I was just actually at Zane's wedding last night, and in lieu of a cake, they had like a cookie and ice cream bar. So like a bunch of like gourmet cookies, and then you pick 2, and then they put ice cream in the middle and make an ice cream sandwich, and it was pretty incredible. I try as much as possible to limit that, so probably I got a bit of a sweet tooth, so I'd say like my normal, like, to satisfy that is I'll have like a yogurt at night with like like some like blueberries and granola in it, and that I feel like that's like the next, like, the healthier version of that.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
all right, I know you're on the healthier side, but would you say Chick-fil-A, Zaxby's, or Cane's?
Chick-fil-A for sure.
Good choice.
Just had it yesterday.
What's the most adventurous thing you've done in your life?
I'm a pretty calculated, like, risk taker. I would say a buddy of mine and I were in Colorado. We went water rafting, and it was pretty intense. It was like a serious, like, whatever class thing, and like our guide, like the very first rapids we went down, our guide fell out the back of the boat, and so we were like 8 of us in there with no instructor. Like, we're just like,
First
we don't
time
know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. But yeah, that was intense. That was fun. But yeah, I'd say for the most part, I'm pretty calculated with my risk taking.
So like when you do something like that, for example, do you finish it and are you like, man, I'm glad I did that, or man, I'm never doing that again?
It depends on what it is. Like that
Like
doesn't
with
that
the
didn't-
rafting, for example, is
That
it?
didn't feel like a massive risk, so I would definitely do
Yeah.
that again.
Gotcha.
There's also things where I just, like, I've always thought about like skydiving. I'm not a huge fan of heights, but I think like at that point, like, you're so high, it doesn't feel like heights anymore. It's just like something else. But I don't know. I feel like skydiving is like, it's been around long enough. There's enough like safety things in place to where I can I can wrap my head around the fact that, like, okay, this is inherently dangerous, but like the risk is mitigated through all the safety measures that have been taken.
Yeah.
So something like that, I could be okay with.
Yeah. Skydiving's interesting because it's like you still definitely know you're high, and like the airplane doors open. None of it feels normal because I've done it once. But the interesting part was like when you're actually falling, and it doesn't feel like you're falling because you're not like, on like a roller coaster where you see like the trees and you're like, you have a frame of reference for like your stomach dropping. Like it didn't feel
Yeah.
it was none of that. It was just like you're floating in the air. So
And, like, what about all the wind? Like the wind hitting you that fast, does that make it feel like?
it feels, yeah, you feel that, but it still doesn't feel like you're falling. To me, it didn't.
Right.
It didn't feel like, because
Yeah.
to me, I equate falling to like my stomach dropping, like that
Right.
feeling where it's like,
But I think that's
But-
actually not necessarily falling. It's like the change of direction.
yeah, maybe
So
so.
like if you're just falling at a constant pace, I don't know that you have that feeling necessarily. I think it's like,
Yeah,
because you get that like on a roller coaster, like up and over the hill.
yeah,
I think
that's
but,
fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's interesting. And then, so were you nervous before the shoot opened, or?
Yeah, because I was stressed because the first time you do it tandem. So a guy, like a professional, is on your back, but you're supposed to pull the chute at a certain time based on what your altitude thing says. So, but it's like you get a quick briefing. So it's like, and you have so much weird stuff on you, but he tells you it's like right here or something to pull it. And then like you're so stressed out about it the whole time that I was almost like too worried about. I wish he would have just pulled it. Like, I don't give him any job, especially an important
Right.
job like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there was some stress around. I was just thinking about that the whole time. Don't pull it too late. I'm gonna pull it too late, and or it's not gonna come out. Just like you do everything, I'm just gonna float.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah, so
I'd recommend it.
I would still entertain that. I would still entertain that idea if the situation came up, I guess.
Yeah. So last one. Besides phone or wallet, what's one thing you couldn't live without?
But, Hmm. It's a tough one. Um, I like, so I lived in Chicago, like when I was going to school, and I did not like the idea of being downtown, being in the city, like public transportation, all that stuff. Like, I love to be able to just get in my car, go to the store, go, So, like, having my own car, I could never be like a public transport guy.
Yep.
Like, take the train, take whatever. Like, I need to have a car. I need the convenience of that.
Yeah.
Like, even when I go to a tournament, I'm always renting a car. I don't want to rely on Ubers and all that other crap. I'm just like, so yeah, I'd probably say a car.
I like that. There's so many times where I've been at like, whether it's like Middletown, Ohio, like just middle of nowhere type tournaments. And yeah, I'm just waiting on an Uber for 45 minutes after I just lost in the back draw. I'm just like, I just want to leave and
Yeah,
just
it's the
waiting,
worst.
waiting.
It's the worst being on someone else's schedule. And not only that, but Ubers can like, depending on demand, they can really like screw you. I had a
Yes.
time where I flew into Austin and it was super big. It's normally like a 30-minute Uber ride from the airport to my house. And it flew in and it was like, I think a bunch of flights were delayed. So there's a bunch of people there. And then all the Ubers were $120 for no reason, So it's just like, you never know when they're going to be in high demand. And if you're stuck without a car, it's you're just kind of, so
I
not
like
fun.
it. So a vehicle and convenience and on your own time. Love it.
Exactly.
Anything else that we haven't gone over that you want to share today?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
We covered quite a bit of.
We covered a lot of ground today. Where can people find you to, YouTube channel, socials, all that stuff?
So John Cincola Pickleball is my YouTube channel. I have a website that's just my name, John Cincola. So that is, has links to a lot of my stuff. So to my channel and a lot of different stuff. And then I think my Instagram is also John Cincola Pickleball. So it should be pretty easy to find. Just use my name and it should pop up. So.
Love it. Well, I appreciate you hopping on today, man. It was fun kind of getting to know your journey a little bit more. And we'll do this again next year and see if you got that balance that you were looking for.
Nice. I love it. All right. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Thanks, John.